Okay, thank you, Tijani, for that feedback. Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited reading the chat. Obida, yes, you're among the first 10. That's right. Okay. Saleh, Samaila. Okay. Maybe one of these days I will I will give a special recognition or award to those who are among the early comers. So today we'll be having amazing people sharing with us. We're going to is a continuation of what we're doing, what we started yesterday. Remember last week Wednesday, we started considering the public leadership promoting inclusive governance, right? So this week, and then we began by looking at promoting youth participation in governance. Mr. Ibrahim Farouk took us through that session. Then I also took us through engaging the Freedom of Information Act to promote good governance. We're taking it further, and today we'll be looking at a book review to look at From Third World to First World, the story of Singapore. And to do that for us is Mr. Shola Fagorusi. I'm going to be calling him up shortly so that um, he take that session. Immediately after Mr. Shola round up, we're going to be having another session. Many of you are thinking of running for office. We'll put up a section like this for us to hear from those who have contested before and those who have won. So we're going to be listening to two people. Number one, we'll be listening to Honorable Ghazali Abubakar. He's a member representing Nanjua East constituency in Bauchi State House of Assembly. We're also going to be listening to another woman, Honorable Binta Mamman. She's the honorable member representing Gurara constituency, Niger State House of Assembly. Then she was also the majority leader, the first female majority leader of that particular House of Assembly. So you see, today is going to be power packed for all of you. I just want you to be excited, pay attention, and participate. Meanwhile, we are still 48 in number. It means more than half of the people are not online. So can you quickly go to your groups or individuals that you know are not here and just boost them quickly, tell them, young man, young woman, you're supposed to be here. So talk to them quickly so that we can go on with the speed of light. We are 30 minutes behind schedule already, so that Mr. Shola can start his session. Is that all right? So let's do that. Yes, the number is increasing gradually. Good, we're making progress. We are making progress. Good. Yes, good progress. So welcome, Mr. Shola. This is not the first time Mr. Shola is taking us in session. Mr. Shola was taking 2 sessions already. I believe all of us remember. I remember that session. All of us were full of excitement when Mr. Shola was opening our mind to see what we can use technology to do, especially in promoting good governance, right? So Mr. Shola will introduce him quickly, and then he's going to begin his session. Mr. Shola, you're welcome. So Shola Fagosi is the Executive Director, One Life Development Initiative. Shola Fagosi is the One Life Initiative for Human Development Ibadan, Nigeria. Is a non-governmental organization working to improve the well-being of young people by providing safe spaces, skills, linkages, and vocational training, including information and resources to enable them make informed decisions. He holds a master's degree in Development Communication and is currently in line for a PhD in public policy. He has served as consultant to UNICEF Nigeria, a global media campaign to end GFGM, IFDC, ICRA, and a number of international local non-profit organizations. Shola also holds a certificate in non-profit leadership and management from the Lagos Business School. Through the organization, works around themes of sexual and reproductive health and rights, governance and policies, and enterprise development with interest in agribusiness. Mr. Shola tweets at Shola Fago. You're welcome, Mr. Shola. Mr. Shola has always been an amazing person who inspires me a lot. And I'm excited that every time we call upon you, you're always there to give your support and your input. Thank you for being part of this process, Mr. Shola. You're welcome once again.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Unfortunately, I don't have a slide this afternoon, so we'll need to just make do with what is. I'm out of my workstation, so I'm on the field somewhere. So yeah, so that's what it is. So this afternoon, very quickly, we'll be talking about, from third word to first word. There's that book, titled "So from First Word to Third Word" by Lee Kuan Yew. It's about 700 pages. I have the hardbound copy of that book. Unfortunately, like I said, I'm out of my workstation. I possibly will have, been able to also draw direct excerpt from the book. I've read the book once as well, and I'm sure several of us must have heard mentions of the book at different points as well. So I would speak to some of the content in the book, take us on a trip to Singapore, run us through some of the things that we actually need to know if we talk about national development, what is peculiar about this country. So that's my brief, this afternoon. So I'll start by saying that this 700-page book has, I think, about 48 chapters, has 3 different parts. But my interest is really in the content and what are the major lessons that we can actually draw from this book. Okay, so if you're going to be running for offices, you want to take this book. You want to go find this book and buy. I think you might be lucky enough to find a PDF copy online, but it's a book that you want to read. It's not a book you can actually read, also in a hurry, but I can assure you that it's worth the read. So I'll mention a few things about, the country itself. As of the time the country gained, independence in 1965, the country had and still does not have any single natural resources. So just for once, imagine Nigeria without oil, imagine Nigeria without gold, imagine Nigeria without all those natural resources that we've talked about. Just imagine what basically can happen if that's the case. So that's basically the case, with Singapore. And one of the things we saw very clearly in the context of the book was the fact that its founding fathers were people who are actually very honest individuals. Honesty was like a major watchword. The policies that were put in place by the government of Singapore under the leadership of Lee Kuan Yew, which most people call LKY, were policies that were not necessarily agreed on by all the people. So sometimes some of those policies were forced down the neck of individuals. One of the other things that we also saw was the fact that Lee Kuan Yew in the book From Third World to First World also talked about how they started hunting from the private sector across the world. If you were a Singaporean, one of the things they were doing very clearly was to see if they could actually bring you into actually working within the public sector. And the idea was, look, this is our own country. You can bring foreigners to do certain things, but we also want the best. It was a case of where is our own best 11? I always joke and say that one of the reasons why the political space in Nigeria is the way it is because several of our best 11, individuals like Sheung, we're all in the development sector. Imagine the energy we put into some of this work. If we take those energy, for example, and bring it into public space, peradventure, several things would also change. So that was one particular thing that Singapore actually also had to do. Another thing we also saw very clearly was the fact that the states, as the nation state as it were, had what is called zero tolerance for a number of things. There was zero tolerance for corruption. It was punishable by death. There was zero tolerance for you chewing gums. So young people could not chew gums. Yes, same chewing gum. It was stopped. There were major punishment for it. Some of those trends you are seeing now, where people are being forced to barb their hair and see it in a particular, and have it in a particular way, low cut precisely. The Singaporean government at that particular point in time argued very clearly that there was something about perception, there was something about you being responsible, and it came also with the looks. And so the Singaporean government then had people who were actually enforcing this within the country. So I'm mentioning some of these things so that, again, when you hear some of these policies again, if it's not grounded in certain premise, then it actually becomes a major issue. Another thing I would also like to mention was the fact that quite a number of the founding fathers, even though you had Lee Kuan Yew as one of the most popular faces, there were quite a number of individuals as well. The deputy prime minister at that particular point in time was also one of those who were actually very instrumental into making sure that things actually happen the way they should in Singapore. You would not talk about the story of South Africa, for example, without talking about the stories of the Ahmed Katrinas, the Oliver Tambos, the Walter Sisulus, and of course, the Nelson Mandela. So there were several other persons that were around Nelson Mandela's, the Desmond Tutu, who actually also had to make a number of interventions as well. So Singapore also had its own fair share. But the truth is that this leadership, the honesty that we actually see, in form of leadership, was transferred from one generation to the other. So it became like a national policy. I'm currently reading a book on Uganda, a book on Rwanda. And one of those things I found out in the context of that, the book was written in 2021 by a journalist. And one of those things I found out was the fact that Rwandans have a state, an unwritten state policy. So if you meet the average Rwanda, for example, it is part of the culture for a Rwandan to lie, right? You can correct me if I'm actually wrong. So a Rwandan is not expected to tell you the truth totally. So children were taught, growing up that, look, no, this is how to actually feel. This is how to actually tell a lie. Right. So the journalists had problems actually believing in several of the policies, of the present government, Paul Kagame's, led government. For all you care, this information, I'm mentioning right here, may even get to them, given how they've also had to stamp down, press freedom on people's, people's opinions and people's ideas. But the point I'm trying to make here is that Nigeria also was not in short supply of very serious and honest founding father. The likes of Aminu Kano, the likes of Nnamdi Azikiwe, the likes of Anthony Enaro, the likes of, mention them, Obafemi Awolowo across. But what we did not see was how that transitioned from generation to generation. I've talked about the fact that the country itself has no natural resource. I've talked about the fact that, leadership became big deal for them. But a number of things that we can actually learn from the Singaporean experience is the fact that they were actually very big on vision. And one of the things they did very clearly was that vision was sustained from generation to generation. Lee Kuan Yew died in, I think it was in 2015 or 2005 or so. He died some year, I think it was 2015. He died in 2015. His son, interestingly, is currently president, of the country. However, one of those things we also saw very clearly from the book was the fact that he believed, for example, in terms of the superiority, the genetic makeup of the average Singaporean. So it was of the school of thought that, leaders are actually born, first and foremost, before they are actually made, right? And so it was not, for Singaporeans actually marrying people who are foreigners. It was something that the leader basically frowned at. So they had this, long-term vision, they kept it within the country. So anybody who was coming into office, for example, was basically able to actually also sustain that vision. The party called the PAP, the People's Action Party, has been in leadership since independence. So even though there are opposition parties in the country, it has more or less been a one-party state. Oh, I didn't know my video was off, actually. Okay. It has more or less been a one-party state, and that's exactly what we have actually seen, with Singapore. Singapore has been a one-party state, all through up until now. And the son of, Lee Kuan Yew is currently, the head of government there. Again, one of those things that he also did was the fact that, you know, meritocracy was also brought into works. So imagine the Bauchi State, you know, government saying that, look, the application portal has been open now. If you want to become the Commissioner of Finance, please go ahead and apply. You know how funny that will seem. You know, what we see basically is the fact that you don't need to merit the space in Nigeria. Whether you don't have experiences in, you know, fiscal policies, whether you don't have experiences in monetary policies, you go ahead and you do what you need to do. If you look at the cabinet of the current president, for instance, that's not the case of what we see, right? You see individuals who don't have any proper fit into a particular space actually holding on to that space. The Minister of Labor we have in the country currently is a medical doctor, but currently is the Minister of Labor and Productivity, right? And you have, you know, series of examples, you know, that way. But it's about for Lee Kuan Yew, from what we saw in the book From Third World to First World, it's about getting the right people into office and nothing more. So it became like a competitive process. So you can imagine that what basically happened with the country was that a lot of transformation happened because these were the right hands. I already talked earlier about how individuals that were best fitting for a particular roles were the ones who were actually getting in the role, and the fact that the country itself began to also hunt for this. One of those things that was also very popular, you know, that was also very clearly alluded to in the book was the fact that the president himself, the head of government himself, offered not to just have, you know, feedback from those in the circle of government. There's a joke, you know, I've heard a number of times, I don't know how true this is, you know, within the country here, that there are instances where, you know, the president is being given a different newspaper from what is even in circulation. That individuals actually print newspapers and give to the leadership, whether the governor or something, you know, just to say, look, this is what we want you to read. This is what we want you to know. But guess what Lee Kuan Yew did? Lee Kuan Yew found a friend, you know, someone outside of the country who would always come into the country. So there were times when he would come into the country, they would fund his coming into the country as, you know, as government. And his role was basically to go around the country to get a true reflection of what the situation of the country would be. Because sometimes, you know, I head an organization and sometimes I'm totally disconnected from what is even happening within just a small sized organization of less than some, you know, 15, you know, staff. I don't know what happens. Sometimes even as the ED of the organization, you don't even have the key to actually open the door to even your own office or even to the organization's office. So if you want to run in there on Sunday, you are totally disconnected. You don't even know that the padlock has been changed. And that's what happens, you know, at, you know, the highest level of government. Government just, you know, continues to make policy. The leadership continues to make policy without ensuring that, look, what is the effect of this policy, for example, on individuals? What is the effect of this policy, for example, on people? So if you say, for example, you have made an overhead bridge somewhere, and the question is, why exactly are people not using this bridge? But as far as you are concerned, you have ticked the fact that, look, we have a bridge somewhere. We have, you know, made a bridge somewhere, making it safe for people to actually, you know, move. So what Lee Kuan Yew did, from what we can see from Third World to First World, was the fact that he got someone who was totally independent to actually come into the country and begin to see things, you know, from a perspective that he would not, from a perspective that is not, you know, tilted, from a perspective that, you know, is very frank. And so he would get, you know, upbeat report to say that, look, this is how the people are perceiving this. This is the effect of what you have done on this. Again, Singapore is not a welfare state. So one of those things, you know, very particular about a welfare state is the fact that you begin to have programs for people. You begin to, there's a dole system, for example, in the UK. I have friends in the UK who have mentioned to me that one of the organizations, there are organizations in the UK that their interest is in making people see why they need to stop collecting what we call dole, like a handout from government. So the organizations are set up to make people see that, no, stop collecting this handout from government, go and get a job. Because if you do not have a job, government actually has a responsibility in a welfare system to actually take care of you. But what Lee Kuan Yew saw very clearly was that, you know, this is not a sustainable system. And so instead, what they did was to actually create what is called, you know, a public welfare, a public system that basically caters to the welfare of the people in different ways, rather than giving them handouts. And his theory was that by giving people handout basically makes them very irresponsible, makes them, not aspiring, to be on that, on the top of that Maslow's hierarchy, of need. So if you have someone, for example, a young man here who has maybe about 3 different siblings in the US, the UK, maybe in Canada, and they're always sending him, allowances and all of that, you're not going to be shocked that that young man, that young lady, for example, is not worried about all the things you talk about in terms of ideas, because he knows that, look, what is going to feed with, what is going to get, clothes and all of that are clearly taken care of. So, a welfare system was basically found out it is found out in Singapore. And so what we had were, public healthcare system. So when you see, for example, people say, there's the national health insurance policy, there's a national housing policy, a system that makes it possible for you to actually own certain things. There's a public, transport system that is properly networked, not the kind that, the train will break down the road from, Abuja to Kaduna, for instance, such that even as an individual, without even having, cars, it would not become a thing of pride to say, look, I drive a car. It's just the fact that you need to transport yourself from one location to the other. And so necessity actually becomes a major thing. So they developed the transport sector. They began to develop infrastructure. Earlier on, I had mentioned that, the country itself does not have any natural resource. So you can imagine what they basically had to start falling on. So it was more about, how do we use human resources in this place? A senior friend of mine who has been to the country came back then. I remember we were discussing, and he was mentioning how they have what we have today as, our tech hubs. This was 10 years back when I was still, resident in Kaduna then. And he came back and mentioned how they have hubs, how young people, for example, grow out of those hubs. So how, for example, if you say you want to do business into, let's say you want to go into remote, I'm looking at the remote control on the table, into remote control production, for example, they'll find somebody who is already in that line of business, right? So you get an office is one of those several skyscrapers, they have there as one of their hubs. You get an office there, and then they move it a step further and find you a mentor who is currently in that line of business, right? So that was, some of the approaches that we actually saw, Singapore using, so much so that it is called one of the, major economic miracles of the world today, right? And so they began to develop things around, manufacturing. We began to see things about quality. We began to see things around, tourism. We began to see things around, making sure that other multinationals, for example, began to see Singapore as a major destination. Remember again that they had grown a value system, for example, where their people were perceived as honest. So it was easier for staff, for example, to come into for organization, multinationals to come into the country and say they actually wanted to do things here, right? Because you were sure that you will not have that headache. One of the biggest problems in Nigeria today is not unemployment as it were. It's the fact that you find it very difficult to find the right set of people to actually work with, right? People just want to sit down, earn an allowance, for example, without doing anything. So you have to keep creating system. You create, sign-in book, you create movement book, but even all of that at some point can actually be circumvented. Excuse me. So what we have, very clearly is the fact that, they threw out, that welfare system. So what do we have in form of a welfare system today? The school feeding program is a welfare system. Look, it's not sustainable, right? You don't have a policy on agriculture, for example, that ensure massive production. So you are sure that farmers already have where to sell. So farmers are linked with school, for example, to sell their produce. So it's about contracting. The children don't get what they should. Those who have done, an evaluation of the project, I've mentioned several times that, look, sometimes the only time when you see what should be is when you have a government functionary actually coming into the place. The vendors are owed money, for instance. So the welfare system is not a system that actually profits, majority of the people. Just a few individuals would profit from that system. But imagine if you have the health insurance agency, for example, the health, insurance, scheme that we are seeing several states, for example, have. The idea behind health insurance, for example, is that, look, if there are 20 of us in the room and we each pay 1,000 naira for health insurance, maybe at the end of the year, so there are data around this, only 2 or 3 of us will get sick. So only 2 or 3 of us will actually go ahead and use that health insurance. I did a comprehensive health insurance on my vehicle, I think about 2 or 3 years back. At some point, was it sometimes 2 or last year? I was in an accident, and it was easy to go back to the health insurance company. They made an offer. I went back to them that, look, no, that's not, I don't think that is a true worth of that. That's not what the mechanic is giving. They came, they did an evaluation. But if 20 of us did that, paid an health insurance of about 150,000 naira, 20 of us did that, maybe just one of us or two of us would actually have any issues. So these are difficult thinking process to come by, because it's going to involve a lot of planning. You have to involve a lot of planning, a lot of simulations. What is going to happen if we decide to do that. And so that's what the Singaporean government was majorly pumping money into. There's a quote that I would like to take out of here: whether your father is a minister, banker, professional laborer, taxi driver, or hawker, your military standing depends on your performance. So a lot of their young people were also encouraged to actually get within the military system. Israel also has this interesting system. Can't remember the title of that book now. It also has this very interesting system. No matter what it is, once you are, I think either 16 or 18, as a male, you have to join, you have to join the military, right? It's just like doing NYC. That was their own equivalent. I think it's for 3 years. And several of the businesses you see in Israel today are formed by people who met, in the course of that military experience, even after they've gone through whatever it is, a tertiary education, or gone through a primary education. And then from there, you actually have a reserve army. So it's a country that is actually serious in actually protecting itself. Again, there's this other quote by one of those strong men, one of those founders of Singapore, called Goh Keng Swee. Said, no matter what problem Singapore encounters as a nation, somebody somewhere has found a solution. Let us find that solution and adapt it intelligently to Singapore. So again, which was one of the things they did. They were not afraid to actually reach out to other countries and say, look, how did you solve this problem? Nigeria has been battling issues of transportation forever, right? We're just waking up to the fact that you can actually use train to actually move, things from one part of the country to the other. But it does not sync very clearly with the national plan. What kind of trains are you looking at? Is it human movements that you are really interested in? Or is it in the movement of goods, and services that you're interested in? I remember at some point when the Ekiti State governor was actually trying to set up an airport in Ekiti State. The land had been cleared and all of that before that project was abandoned. But what was the plan? Was it supposed to be a cargo airport? Was it supposed to be an airport for human movement? Was it supposed to be an airport for boats? So these things actually have to sink into national plans. And that's the only way, after sinking it into national plan, for instance, that's the only way you can look at it and say, look, what are those kind of human resources, we need? So within the sector, we do a lot of hotels, and we stay in a lot of hotels. And one of the things I've seen very clearly is that the problem is not building an hotel. The problem is in the human resources that you actually have in that hotel, right? The human resources you have in the hotel is what will tell you whether the hotel at the end of the day is beautiful or not, whether the hotel is actually, your experience in that hotel is fantastic or not, right? So for Singapore, it was about, has this been done somewhere before? If this problem has been, fixed somewhere before, can we go to them and actually take lessons from them and really understand how they basically fix this problem somewhere? So what problem do we have as a country, for instance? What problem do you have, within your own system set up there? Is it your own local government? You are going to be part of leadership at some point. So what's the problem there, for instance, that you can look at and say that, look, this has been solved in another local government at some point in time. And so we can go and take the lesson from how this was done and then figure out how we can actually improve on this as well. The other thing was also the fact that, Singapore also looked inwards, to say that, look, some of the problems we actually have can be fixed there. It's a country of less than 6 million individuals. Nigeria is a country of, over 200 million individuals. And Singapore did a lot of looking inwards to say, look, how can we fix, this concern? What is the internet solution to this, right? And so they began to look at, we don't need, so that was what forms, the premise for them saying that, look, we need trade, not aid. So that's a major language you find, in Singapore. So today, we're not shocked, or, to see the fact that, you don't have a lot of foreign aids going into Singapore, because Singapore has said, look, what we actually need is a lot of trade transactions. So a country that actually had a vision for trade. So one is not shocked to actually see a Singaporean airline that is, one of the biggest airlines, across the world, right? And that's what we have seen, because the country was actually clear about actually developing things that they actually wanted. in the course of trade. So aviation is actually a major part, you know, of what they actually have in the country. It's also said that the country also has, you know, the highest number of millionaires, you know, across the world. The fact that there's a lot of business actually going on down there. There's a lot of trade. There's a lot of, you know, engagement. There's a lot of business actually going on there. Businesses are being, you know, are being incubated on a regular basis. Okay, so it's reflected in what we also have. So they have what is called, you know, the Economic Development Board of Singapore. And I've always said that, you know, young people need to understand that beyond all of this politics, one of the things that you need to understand is the economy of things. Behind the interest in contesting for the Senate, running for the Senate, you know, being the APC chairperson and all of that, is the fact that people understand the figures behind all of these things. If you are the APC, you know, so I'm currently, you know, in Akwa Ibom, and I was discussing with a young man who, you know, took us around to some of the project sites yesterday, and we're talking about, you know, recently, I think that they lost the APC chairperson of the state. A lot of money had been, you know, put in his care to actually do a number of things. I don't know how true this is, that, you know, even after he's dead, they had to use some spiritual means to actually wake the man up, to mention where the money was. You know, the money was not in any of his accounts. His children, his wife didn't know any whereabouts of the money, but money was actually with the man, and, you know, it's gone. So at the underbelly of all of this interest, I want to be APC chairperson, I want to be this, is about, at the end of the day, economic control. What gives power? You know, yes, power, fantastic, but what really gives true power is the fact that, yes, that individual can actually control, you know, what the economy of things actually look like. So the Economic Development Board of Singapore was, you know, and still is a major part of the growth and the economic development that we have seen in Singapore. When we talk about a country moving from third world to first world, you know, is the fact that the country's economy has really grown. We're talking about, you know, the poverty indices. We're talking about the development indices. So in terms of human rights, Singapore is not really doing very well. There are a number of mentions as to some of the things they're not doing properly. But in terms of, you know, zero corruption, for example, Singapore is, you know, right on the top, which again talks about the economic development plan. And there was a report recently for Nigeria saying that, you know, if you were into the business of, you know, exporting and all of that, you were basically almost running at a loss, because almost about 80% of your profit has already been taken out as, you know, as kickbacks, as bribes at the different agencies that you actually have to interface with before you export. So several Nigerians would rather go do business in a place like Ghana, you know, where the level of corruption is not that they don't have, but it's not as high as this. So imagine for a country, for instance, where whatever it was that they were producing, whatever was coming in form of import and export, did not have to deal with issues of bribery and corruption. So that was very clear in terms of what the Economic Development Board of Singapore also had to do. Again, one of the things that was also, you know, pointed out very clearly in the book From Third World to First World is the fact that Singapore remains and is a multi-ethnic yet inclusive society. So because of the several, you know, I think they have about 4 major ethnic groups, just like Nigeria has about 3 major ethnic groups. There's a quote here I would like to read. In a multiracial society, one soon learns that no one people has a monopoly of wisdom, and that one's own culture is not without flaws. This breeds not only tolerance for different viewpoints, but also a readiness to learn and borrow from the accumulated wisdom of others. So Singapore was able to very quickly look at its multi-ethnic setup and began to take the best that were available in terms of the values, in terms of the culture of the people, and to make sure that, you know, things went the way it should. So years back, I was in Kaduna and I was discussing with a young man, and his friend came, you know, apparently the friend couldn't speak a word in English. I couldn't speak a word in Hausa then. And he was really offended that I could not speak Hausa, and yet I was communicating, you know, in English. And then I was shocked. It was a culture shock for me that, look, are you really okay, right? Because as far as he was concerned, that was his worldview, right? That, you know, everybody should be able to communicate in the Hausa language, and you can't blame him as well. But what the country, you know, did was the fact that they strengthened the educational system, made English their official language, and they didn't just do that again. They also went ahead to ensure that everybody in the country began to have 1 or 2 lessons in the English language. So you get into Singapore today, the tertiary institution, for example, you know, speak in English, you know, you can do your education, you know, using that language, you know. So everybody began, so English became the official language. So there was less about, you know, The Mandarin, for example. We also have people, who speak that language. So all of those were made secondary, such that the official language, the most dominant language for communication in the country, became the English language, just because they wanted to make the people, come together as one. So in our own case as Nigeria, what exactly is the plan around this, right? So you get into places, people are offended, people speak in different languages, just the same way, for example, as humans, we'll get into a place and everybody is communicating, in a different language, and one is offended, and why is everybody actually saying this, right? If you go to a country like Tanzania, for example, one of the things I've seen in Tanzania is the fact that if you grew up in the northern part of the country, so let's say you grew up in Kano, for example, they made it impossible for you to actually run. Is it your primary or secondary education? You have to do one of those ones in the southern part of the country. So imagine you grew up, you were born in Kano, and then by the time you wanted to get into primary school, for example, or into GSS, class, they send you to Enugu to go and school. And they did that, throughout the entire country. And so it made it very difficult for them to actually have ethnic crisis, because look, everybody's actually married to somebody. Somebody has a very close friend. Somebody's closest friend is from another part of the country. And so that's the story of Tanzania, which is also what, in part we can actually say that, Singapore has also been able to do, despite being a multiracial society as well. Okay, I've talked about the National Strategic Plan. So organizations would have strategic plans. Organizations will say that this is what we're actually aspiring to. I was reading, recently about the National Conservation Foundation. It's an organization that used to be owned by Mr. S.L. Edu. It's now a blessed memory. And, he was talking about how Chevron then, funded them gave them about 78 hectares of land, and how the organization actually had succession planning from day one of the organization. I talked about, Lee Kuan Yew's son now, Hong Yu, also currently being, the head of government of that particular country, right? If you look at, the George Bush family, for example, so you've seen Bush the father, become president, Bush the son also becoming president, Bush the brother becoming governor of the state of Texas, I think on 2 different occasions, so sometimes, you also have families that, they have dynasties in that regard. And it could actually be something as simple as the family having a plan to say, look, for us, we are particular about politics. If you go to Kenya as well, you see the Kenyattas also doing the same thing, all over the space. Kenyatta, the father, you've had, even the son as well. What's the name of their current president as well? And you see them saying, oh, they own this plantation, they own this rubber plantation. So there's the economic component to it. And of course, with economic mind also comes the fact that people are able to also get political mind. So the National Strategic Plan, for the country is actually a big deal. And it should not just be something that, a few individuals, for example, key into, or a few individuals actually know about. It's something that has been put together by the entire country to say, look, this is where we want to be. And for them, it was actually long term. So initially, they had to depend on Malaysia for supply of water. And so they signed a 100-year, lease, for this with Malaysia. And one of the things that very clearly happened was that they knew and had a plan and said that, look, in the next 100 years, by the expiration of this in 100 years' time, this is what we will have done. This is where we'll have been. And very clearly, before the expiration of 100 years, they've made remarkable progress in terms of providing, water for the people of their country as well. Another thing again was also their, from the book, is also their people-centric approach. Lee Kuan Yew was of the opinion that, look, you need to get, people to see the little things, the low-hanging fruits. You don't get into government, you don't get into office and not provide basic things first and foremost for people to win their confidence. If you are building, a massive structure, for example, you are building a school, for example, you are building a millennium school, like they like to call it sometimes, for example, it might take you several years to actually do that. And so this is a project that will take about 2 years of your administration to actually do that. But what about those things that people will look at very quickly and say that, wow, this is fantastic. A community that did not have water. And that was one of the things that, very clearly were pointed out in the book. What were the quick wins? A community needs pipe to get there, for water access to get there. This is a 1 week project. This is a 2 week project. This is a 1 month project. They quickly did that, right? a community needs, lights to actually get here, or what do we need to do here? We just need to put poles here and get, power supply here. Or we can just do a solar system here. These are quick wins to actually win the heart of the people and interest of the people. And so those are the things they did very quickly when they got into office, through his leadership. Water provision was key in the early days because that was a major, pain point for the people. So they did little things to win the trust of the people. And so it was easier for people to wait for the big things because they are seeing them also do, some of those, little things. Another thing that was really dominant from the book is actually also the foreign policy implementation. Because of the size of Singapore, Singapore knew very clearly that, look, as an Asian country, in the southeastern part, one of the things that they needed to do was to be at peace with several of their neighbors, right? And so they pursued this as a major foreign policy, according to content from the book. It was pursued as a major foreign policy. And one of the things they did very clearly was the fact that, look, they were cool with a country like the US, and possibly they were also cool with a country like China. They also had, friendly relationship with a country like Russia as well, right? Because they knew what it meant to them in terms of putting a strain on their own foreign policy, putting a major concern on, their own military might, which they also did not have at those early days. So these are some of the, major takeaways, from the book, from Third World to, to First World. Then I would also like to mention the fact that, it was mentioned that what they did really was the population at that particular point in time on independence was actually reluctant. Someone said that it seemed as though Lee Kuan Yew dragged a reluctant population into, into a modern world. And this is what we talk about in terms of visioning. It is the responsibility of any individual who has chosen to be a leader, any individual who has chosen to run into political office, to say, look, very clearly, what do I want the people to see? What do I want the people to become? What do I want this state to become? So there are times that even individuals, for example, do not know what is best for them. However, it has to be that you have done your homework properly. You have seen very clearly how this decision, for instance, will benefit the people. Paul Kagame is known to have moved several people from, backwater villages, backwater states, and built an entire, millennium village for them. Village with, all the amenities, to say, look, I can't take all of these facilities that you are requesting for. So if you go to a place like Zangotama, for example, that's somewhere in, Zangotama is where in Zaria, right? And then you look at the distance from where that village is to Zaria town itself, and you're beginning to ask yourself that if government is to bring development to just this 20 family units, 50 family units in this place, what is, you do the analysis to say, look, does this really pay, for instance? And what Paul Kagame has done is, is a bold move in that sense, bringing people together from different locations, despite their belief about identity, and saying that, look, this is what we need to do for you that we know that you would actually benefit from. So it is said that they actually dragged the country, for example, into civilization, forced them to actually become what it is today. And one of the things he also did very early was the fact that they allied early with China, much more that they already looked at some of the plans that China was actually, marshalling at that point, and they saw that, look, it was just a question of time. China was going to become an economic might, and how do we again benefit from some of these things? The economy of Singapore was initially dependent also on. There was a U.S. military base. Was it a U.S. or a British military base that was also, in Singapore at that particular point in time? So, this brought a little, engagement, quite a substantial engagement into their own, into their own country. People were being paid, people were being engaged to do certain things, outside of, the regular military space. But immediately this was actually taken care of, this was actually taken out of the country. It also affected their own economy. And so they had to look inwards, to actually make this happen. A thing I also think is also worth mentioning is the fact that he died at the age of 91, and he was married for, I think, about 60 years plus, happily married with 3 kids and all of that. Even those people have argued that sometimes, for leaders, you cannot use the quality of their personal life to actually determine, how to score them. Sometimes I also beg to differ that an individual, for example, is able to manage the home front properly, may also be a pointer to, it might not be an all, it might not be, 100% law or 100%, unwritten rule, but it also talks about an individual who may be able to manage the different differences, the different, engagements, different, things that he or she actually has to do. So he had a good family life. One is not surprised that he was also able to imbibe, transfer such skills, such knowledge to the son. The country is not, going down the doldrums, like one would have expected simply because the son is the president. You can argue that to say, look, is it only your family that is here? But I've mentioned, several other institutions, several other countries rather, where we have also seen this also sometimes play out, how children have actually gone on to become, leaders of the country simply because somehow they were also able to pick a few things from there. So this is something as young people, again, you also want to look out for, having a happy home sometimes, because again, if you're going back home to, a space that is happy sometimes, maybe it also affects performance. I don't have, research evidences around this, but I'm sure there'll be something out there that we can actually, get to see. Not so many people actually agree with Lee Kuan Yew on a number of things. There are points where people, actually differ with him. One of those major, area was the fact that despite being a country that actually believes in honesty, he was totally in support of what, happened with Bill Clinton. He felt that, the US government got it wrong in terms of Bill Clinton being impeached then by the House of, the equivalent of the House of Reps, for his relationship then with Monica Lewinsky, that he lied and all of that. So it was a strange point that several people found as a point of departure to say that, look, if you believe so much as a country in honesty, how come, you think that, a Clinton line should actually was not worthy of actually being asked to leave government, which almost happened, but for the Senate actually overturning that. Again, one other area is the fact that, there's a lot of clampdown on also human rights, especially press freedom. You can't just write anything you want to write. The government basically wants to regulate the space. The government wants to own the narrative, which is again why you have seen a lot in terms of, Singapore. I'm sure you guys must have seen adverts on CNN, even on Singapore and all of that. And the attempt is to actually sell the country as a major destination port when it comes to business transaction, when it comes to business dealing, which is again why, like I mentioned, one of the things they are most noted for is the fact that, yes, there's also tourism in the country as well. I think in 2021, it said that they did about 20 million people actually, about 20 million people, yes, came into the country in and out just because of, the various tourism potential that they've actually been able to harness out of the country, despite the fact that there is no single natural resource in the country. So that would be it from me in terms of this. I'm happy to banter with you guys as part of this, but my major interest here was to say, look, what are those things we can actually take away in terms of lessons from this? And for me, it's the fact that visioning is clear. We have also seen that, also happening with the UAE. The vision was clear as to where they wanted to be as a country. So for you, it might be a space as a local government, for example. What is the vision? Oh, the vision is to make sure that because this is an agrarian community, this local government is going to have the most networked road, anywhere in the world, right? As far as, the space is concerned. Because this is an agrarian community, for example, we are going to make sure that, our farmers do not have to worry about markets. Because this is a community that is majorly dominated by young people, we're going to make sure that young people's complaint, whatever it is. So you might even be as a student union leader to say, look, my major priority while in office in 12 months, these are the things we are going to do. This is how we are measuring this. If you don't envision anything, it's not going to happen. If you don't see and say that this is what we plan to do in another 5 years, in another 12 months, what's the vision? So it might be a short-term space, for example. What's the vision basically? And that's a major takeaway from here. And it might not be something very popular, but it also must have had, input from the people who are supposed to be beneficiaries of this. Another major component of this is the fact that you need very honest feedback, right? We saw how Lee Kuan Yew brought in his friend who was not partisan, was not afraid to look at him in the eyes and say, guy, this thing that you are doing is rubbish, right? This is what people perceive about it. I've also gone there to actually check myself. Whoever your minister is actually telling you a different thing entirely. Your minister is not doing right in this perspective. And because they were also very honest, being prudent was also a major part of it. My friend was telling me about, a minister, the equivalent of a minister in Netherlands who had taken a business class instead of, just sitting there in an economic class. And he got, he had to resign from office simply because of that, right? Some of the things that we actually see happening in some of these countries, not that they don't also enjoy those luxuries, right? But the point is that, look, these amenities have also been presented in a way that everybody can actually get to use it. Why should you get in a BRT, for example, in Lagos and have to worry yourself about dying? It's simply because government officials also do not use that bus system. So it's not a bus system for all of us. It's a bus system for the poor, right? Imagine the bus system being used. So for example, in Lagos, where you actually have the bus rapid transport system, you have sold the idea that you will get to your destination very fast. So the worry for me is that why do you still have people actually using mobile escorts on the road if you are sure that the same bus would actually get to the destination for individuals? So as a government official, why wouldn't you also take that option as well? The worst you can do or the best you can do is have your security details also with you in the bus. That shows that, yes, truly, you also believe in this system that you're actually creating for individuals. Lagos used to be very crowded in terms of vehicular, movement at some point. And, we had leaders who came up with ideas then. I can't remember the name of, the governor then, the military governor who came up with an idea then to say that, look, people will move based on the plate number of their vehicle. So if your plate number ends with an odd number, you can go out with your vehicles on Monday, Tuesdays and Wednesdays. If your plate number ends with an even number, you can go out with your vehicle on the other days of the week. So these are policies, for example, that we have seen individuals actually come up with. But the point is that, look, your policy has to be pro people. Not so many people might agree with it. Sometimes you have to force development on people, but simply because you are a leader, you are clairvoyant enough to actually see what is happening in other places. You can take lessons from what is happening on other campuses. You can take lessons from what is happening in other communities, and then adapt that, for your space as well. So that will be all from me this afternoon. I'm sorry, I need to run off to another engagement as well. If there are questions, I'm happy to take on them, and we can talk about this as well. But again, I want to encourage you. It's a voluminous book. Please put money together. Maybe when Lead Top pays your data allowance. If you're really serious about leadership, just look through that book. It's a material that you actually want to read through. You'll pick quite a number of things from the story of Lee Kuan Yew, who is now of blessed memory, but whose name, when you talk about people's inspirational work from dragging their country from a third world to a first world, would always be mentioned, would always be referenced, would always be like it would always be a poster boy for how a country can actually move from underdevelopment to being a developed, a properly developed country, and a country that is still aspiring even to more development. Thank you very much, and good afternoon once again, everyone.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Mr. Shola. It was awesome listening to you again this evening. Yeah, this afternoon. Yeah, I can see it from the chat box. You can see people responding, talking, reacting. Thank you. So I would like to give room for 2 or 3 persons to ask questions. If you have any question or something you want to raise, kindly raise your hands up and I'll give you opportunity to speak. Any more? Anyone? So this book we just reviewed is a very, very important book. It's a very, very important book. I remember when we were looking at nation building, when we look at nation building, we made a reference to the book. It's good we have it, hard copy. I hope that we're able to use it in subsequent programs or meetings that we're going to be having in the Youth Civic Engagement program. I have the soft copy of the book. I'm going to be sharing it. I don't know if anyone have soft copy of the book. So, Mr. Shira is amazing to share the story of Singapore and how Lee Kuan Yew and other individuals built the system. From the story of the Singapore, do you think Nigeria have a hope, considering the present political terrain and the social economic state of Nigeria? Do you think we can get to to be called one of the first world countries?
Okay, so again, to face our reality, it's a tall order. The indices do not. I would like to say my first response would be to say that look, it is possible, but within the context of our reality, our development plan, that reality is not going to happen anytime soon. The conversations are always about the politicking. The conversations are not about the development. Imagine if imagine if what was making headline instead of the APC convention, instead of removing governors and all of that, it's about the fact that they are arguing about building skyscrapers, for example, for universities, right? We're arguing about the fact that our lecturers need to have offices that should be about the size of a football field. Serious development issues being argued about, not the basic conversation about who should actually be within the political party system or otherwise. So that's why I would say that yes, as much as we will talk about this needs to happen, but we're not anywhere near there right now. We're not close by. It will still take several years. So until we begin to actually, do a total overhaul of the policy and then have individuals who also have the proper mindset, who understand that, look, outside of government, I can actually be something. Outside of the government structure, I can actually get something to do for myself. But again, you also would find it very difficult to blame some of these individuals because they know that once they are outside of that place, patronage actually reduces. We saw pictures of the governor of Anambra State, for instance, how he actually had to go for the church service afterwards and then look at the number of persons that were there. So reality is beginning to actually dawn on him as well, to say that, look, you are out of the office. Nobody is again interested in what happens to you. Nobody again is interested in, how in actually paying obeisance to you because it's no longer your turn as well. Okay, so that's why I'm saying that, yes, that's why I'm saying that it might be very difficult for us, given there's nothing to point in that direction. I remember when the president came into office, for instance, and he had spent 6 months actually trying to find out who should be ministers, right? Several people were of the opinion that, look, we're going doomsday. And if you look at several of the things, you can argue for what it's worth, but there are clear pointers to the fact that it could have been better. Right? How do you spend 6 months to bring back the same set of people as well? How do you spend 6 months to give us the same individual? So what happened in the space of 6 months? At least you had about 2 or 3 months after being, declared as the winner of the election then to sit down and say, look, these are the kind of people I actually want in my space. So for me, it's the fact that as much as we wish that all of these things would happen, we don't have clear indices to this, right? Where you come from is still a major factor. Where are you from? Are you from the east? Are you from the north? My wife is from the northern part of the country, for instance. I still get people who, raise eyebrows about this. I still get people who ask very silly questions, about some of this. So we're not yet there in terms of the country. So we cannot say we are in the business of nation building when even as a people, the people who are supposed to be building the nation are not even cohesive, in terms of their thoughts, in terms of their worldview. You get online and you see young people actually slandering and saying, different things about different individuals from different parts of the country. When we should be talking about is to say that, look, there's an Ebuka who is leading our rugby team. And so Nigeria is always beating the US, beating South Africa when it comes to rugby, simply because we have discovered that, look, people from this part of the country are actually study, right? There's a Musa, there's a Beatrice from Jos who is running and doing, the 100 meters race, putting both where it should actually belong. And he's representing Nigeria to do this. But if the coach is an Igbo guy who doesn't have good worldview, if the coach is from Delta State, is going to victimize those from the north, it's really a mess. We're not yet ready for the business of nation building. But again, this is not to, I don't say this, with pessimism. I'm saying that, yes, the least we can do is to begin to draw examples from our own different corners, look at what is possible. But there's a major role that our leaders have to play. And that's why we cannot joke with who becomes a leader, right? We cannot joke with who becomes, the head of government. We can't joke with who becomes the chairperson of the local government council. I can't remember the story of this young man now. He used to be from, somewhere in Abia State, and was he Abia or Anambra? it was always a perfect example of like the best local government. So every time the allocation comes, this was in the early, early 2000s, when Obasanjo was still president. I heard that every time the allocation comes in, then it will bring the, the entire community together, the leadership of the entire community together and say, look, this is how much we have now. So what do we focus on now, based on what we have? And they will do this debate back and forth and all of that. And then they will agree, oh, I think healthcare is actually more important to us now than the school. And then they will go ahead and actually implement, build the hospital and all of. So you would always have those brilliant examples, which, some of us can actually aspire to. But as a country, as a people, we are not yet in the business of nation building. We're still, trying to learn politics and all of that. Even though people say that, we used to have it better than now. I've always begged to disagree that no, things were not, life was not better then, than now. It was just the indices, the kind of people we had then that we were seeing. But in terms of the quality of life, I don't think it was any better then, than now. It's just the reality that has faced us now that makes it look as though, that is the situation of things. That would be my response. I can just, rest it here for now.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shola. It's always amazing listening to you. I would like to ask you another question, but let me just check if Honorable Binta can hear me. Can you hear me, ma? Okay, I guess she's trying to connect her audio to the Zoom meeting, but she's already online. Okay, so Mr. Shola?
Yes.
One more thing before you leave. Since I'm not seeing any question, but I have so much questions about the book From Third World to First World. Is one of my favorite books on governance and politics. Singapore dedicated so much to build the education system. At the time, they had the best education, the most quality education in the world. When you look at where Nigeria occupied today, we are occupying a very low position among countries that deliver quality education. And we also understand that the 21st century education is such that prepares young people even for the global stage. But we are lagging behind in Nigeria. What strategies do you think we can take as a nation to push our education system to one of the best in the world? I understand that you are a specialist in this line, being an education champion. What are the strategies you think we can take? Over to you, sir.
Okay, actually, several things need to be done. So if you look at a country like Singapore, one key lesson from there is the fact that government understands the major role that education plays. So here in the Southwest, for example, Obafemi Awolowo did put together the concept of free education. But guess what? If that same concept was put together in the North and the Southwestern part of the country did not do that, do you know that today the northern part of the country will be better educated in terms of, compared to the Southwestern part of it? It was just a leader's decision. When they came up with that policy then, there's a book titled, what's the title of that? Unfinished Greatness. That's the title of the book. I can't remember the name of the author now. He spoke about, some of these things that they did. The book is titled Unfinished Greatness. You can Google this and check this out. And then the book went ahead to talk about how, for example, free education was done sometimes, in the 80s. And then one of the major beneficiaries of free education then, by the time we're talking about another, was done not in the 80s, the early 60s, thereabout. By the time we're talking about, 1993, one of the products of those free education was already contesting for president in person of Moshood Kashimawo Abiola. So you can see how far-reaching several of these, policies sometimes can be. But it comes to what is the priority, for example, for government at that point in time. What priority does government have when it comes to this issue? That is what basically determines and helps us to understand, how well this will go. So Singapore, for example, has a free education policy. So from primary to secondary school to tertiary education, government basically supports you. Government ensures that people are actually enrolled. English is used as their major lingua franca. There are public universities. So your concern is not about, look, how do I pay for my tuition? Your concern is not about how do I do this. So we have seen, countries actually go ahead to do this. Another good example you'll find is, countries like Sweden, for example, who also have fantastic systems when it comes to the educational system. It's a lot, starting from the budgeting process to say, like, look, where do you even put the money? Up until recently, it was only Sokoto State, for example, that are matched, in terms of budget, putting over 24% of its state budget, into education, right? But it's about interest. Government actually monitoring the space, ensuring that the quality of teachers. And for me, the major priority should be the primary schools, the primary and the junior secondary schools. That is where you need to put a lot of attention on. Seeing graduates today who they can't even write a complete sentence, unfortunately, there's little you can actually do to correct that. So if government is serious about education, it needs to go to the primary school, it needs to go to the junior secondary school, and then begin to correct what needs to be in terms of the quality of the education there. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much, Shola. That was amazing. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time and your insights. We're grateful for always making up time to be with us. Yes, Honorable Binta is already online and she's connecting audio presently. Yes, I can see that Jodo is trying to connect. Thank you so much, Shola. I think we can release you so I can continue with the work for today. Ladies and gentlemen, can we appreciate Mr. Shola with a wonderful emoji and any kind of reaction on the chat box. If you are sure that you enjoyed the Shola session, also show it, please. Yeah, good. So, Honorable, well done. We can see that you're trying to connect audio. The audio is trying to connect. Thank you so much, Mr. Shola. Okay, beautiful. Yes, Honorable, you're welcome. I'm glad that you're able to connect the audio. Yes, unmute yourself. Okay.
Okay.
Yes, beautiful. We can hear you now.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. And
afternoon, ma. We're glad to have you.
I've been battling to, connect. I can see you view, but I can't hear anything.
Yes,
but it's okay now.
Thank you so much. You're welcome once again.
Thank you.
I also want to appreciate that within a very short notice, you still decide to show up. It tells us that women are ready and women are able. Oh, ladies in the house, if you're excited, let me see it on your chat box. Yes, yeah, I can see it. You're welcome. Okay, I can see it all over. So we're excited to have you.
Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to listen to Honorable Binta Manman quickly. Honorable Ajia Binta Manman is popularly referred to as May Gurara in Niger State because she actually came from Gurara constituency. And that's a very large constituency in Niger State. We're glad to have you because you also doubled as the chairman of that Committee on Women and Gender Affairs and Social Development. I knew at the time you're also the majority leader of the State House of Assembly.
Deputy majority leader.
Okay, deputy majority leader. That's amazing. So we're glad seeing women rising and rising in the northern part of Nigeria, despite the social stereotypes. I believe it must have been so tough. So we're glad to listen to your experience, your story. There are young people here who want to contest election. There are young people here who want to serve in their community in a political office, but they don't know where to go about it. There are young ladies here that want to be encouraged, want to hear your story. How did you get there? And what were some of your styles? What were some of the challenges you had to overcome to begin?
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to be on this platform, and I sincerely appreciate you for the recognition. And briefly, let me say, it all happened from 2014, when my father was actually called to come and contest. But unfortunately, because of his age and some other challenges, and he couldn't do it. So he brought the issue to the family, and there was a kind of deliberation among members of the family, and I was nominated to contest. And from 2014, I had no antecedent. I never thought I could be a politician. I was a full-time housewife as at then. I do my activities in the house. I do school run for children, pick the kids from the school, dress them up in the morning, do the housework, and all that is it. And when the matter came up, I put everything into prayer, and with the support of my family and my husband, Alhamdulillah. But it wasn't easy. First, the challenge you face as a woman, we have so many challenges, starting from the religion perspective, looking at the area where I come from, the North Central, like the northern side of Nigeria. You all know how the religion aspect plays on the issue of women. So when I came on board, I had serious challenges with the people. Some ulamas didn't believe that a woman could be their leader. A woman could stand to, speak on their behalf. And we deliberated on that. A lot of ulamas had to go on deliberation. And finally, I won on that. And again, the cultural aspect, because I am from Niger State, Ogwari by tribe, but I was born in Kano because my father left home and went to Kano to look for greener pasture. So I was born in Kano and I was raised in Abuja here. So definitely I didn't have that, the connection was there, but my presence was not felt in where I come from. So that was another challenge for me, because some people believe that it's like they, imported this woman from Kano State to come and be our leader. That one was a very huge challenge for me. And, it took me more than a month to defend myself that I'm actually from Gurara constituency. I'm a Nigerite. I'm Gwari by tribe, And what really helped me at that time, I had, because I could speak the dialect, and that was a kudos for me. So I overcame that hurdle again. The third one was, they said, I'm not a married woman, that they learned that my husband has divorced me, so they cannot elect somebody to be their leader who is not married. And, I've been married now for almost 20 years. I have to come and start explaining myself, bring my husband, bring my children, for them to believe that, yes, I'm a married woman. So the challenges are so many. Then you come to financial aspects. Honestly speaking, I will give it to the people of Gurara, because when I came on board in 2015, like I told you, I had no antecedent, and the money issue was not really a problem for me, because I didn't have money to give them. But to the glory of God, when I came and I gave them my word, and I told them that if God Almighty give me this position, that I'm going to change the narrative. And I tell you, right from that moment, I began to see changes from people telling me that they believe in what I said, that they have never, seen somebody that is so transparent. I told them that I will not deceive you to give you money, because I don't have money now. But once I get that position, I will support you and I will work for you the way you are working for me now. So what I want to tell the young people is, first, you have to get yourself prepared. Get yourself prepared in the sense that you will face a lot of hurdles ahead. And politics is local. Don't be in Abuja or in Lagos and say you want to contest in your local area. You have to bring yourself down to the level of people at the grassroots. You have to associate yourself with the people at the grassroots. You have to make your presence known before you can even go start buying a ticket to contest for any office. What do I mean here? Women, the atmosphere is not conducive for us, and it's the man's world. The battle out there is so, how do I put it? It's so intimidating. It's tough and intimidating. So you have to start from somewhere. Don't, like a first timer, you just go and get a ticket that you want to go for House of Rep. That is the advice I want to give the young people. Start somewhere and, you know, make your presence known to the people. If you have any interest that you want to contest in 2019 now, go back home, be a registered, card registered member. Make sure you register with the political party first, then align yourself with the executives, align yourself with your stakeholders, align yourself with the people at the grassroots. Don't say you have somebody in Abuja, don't say you have somebody in the villa, don't say you have somebody at the national that will stand for you. That might not, some people are lucky, but majority of the people don't get it that easy. So align yourself first with the grassroots. Make sure your presence is known and get ready for the battlefield that is going to be tough, is not going to be easy. Secondly, again, you have to make sacrifices. Sacrifices in the sense that you can just go to your hometown, go to your ward, look at the party office, donate something, go to hospitals, visit people. If there are naming ceremonies, those are the things that you have to start doing now before 2023. Don't wait until the ball starts rolling that you come and align yourself with them. Those people you see at the grassroots, they are very, very strong and very, very important. We need them at all stages. And as a woman, you have to be humble. You have to have confidence in yourself. You have to have confidence first. If you have confidence and you know that you can stand the heat, then you can come in. So I want to wish each and every one of you success, and I pray that sky is the limit. I was part of the Yaga Africa some years ago, but now I think my age is, waving me out already. So thank you very much.
Good to meet you. Good to hear those wonderful things from you. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Don't forget, yes, everyone, be local, align yourself with the grassroots, because the grassroots, yes, are very powerful. She also, yes, she said, be confident in yourself. A young woman, be confident in yourself. Everywhere you pull you down, your confidence will pull you forward. She also said, yes, be sacrificial. You're ready to make sacrifice, part of it with certain rights for the sake, yes, of the people. Then she also, yes, said, women, be humble. And actually, the northern, not just northern, Nigerian men, they are humiliated by humble women.
Yes.
So
don't say I'm a strong woman, I'm going to get it. Who are you? And no, at every point in time, you show respect. You show the men that I'm not here to drag, but I'm here to compliment. By the time you show them that respect, they will be able to, support you. Let me tell you something. In the Niger State House of Assembly, I'm the only female out of 27 of us. I'm the only woman there. And anytime I want to come up with a motion or a bill, what I do first is I will follow them one after the other. I will be begging them, please, I have a motion tomorrow. It's about women issue. Like the time I did a bill on child rights, that is the issue that has to do with children and women's rights on that bill. So I have to follow them one after the other. There are some sections that didn't go down well with some men, but I have to explain to them, put yourself in a shoe. If this woman was your daughter or your sister, will you allow this thing to happen to her? They will now understand. I say, okay, Hajia, what time is it? Please, I need your presence, because in the assembly, you need the numbers. If the numbers are not there, sometimes this thing don't go, cannot scale through. So I follow them a night before, call them on phone, visit them in their offices, lobby them that, please, I have a bill tomorrow. I want you to support me. I want you to support me on this bill. Please make sure you will be in the assembly tomorrow. They will say, okay, Hajia, there's no problem. So you see, when you follow them like that, and if you're looking for anything, you understand, as the only woman, sometimes they tend to support me, not because I'm the only woman, no, because of my attitude and the way I display, my character. That also make them to, give me that support. So it's very, very important for women to know that despite the fact that we are looking for 35 affirmative action, doesn't give us that right to feel that, yes, we can, buzz with the men. No, we are only asking them to give us a space so that we can also share our own quota, our own experiences, what we have upstairs. You understand? We are not, it's not a muzzle something. It's something that you use your brain, your initiative, show what you have, bring it on the table to discuss. It is based on what you bring on the table that will make people to align themselves with you. But when you want to show that you have the power, then they will show you that, we are, you see, like in the assembly, I'm the only female. They are 26. So if I want to show power, the 26 of them will just gang up against me. You understand? So that one too is very, very important. Wherever you find yourself as a woman, no matter how intelligent you are, please, I'm not saying you bow down to them. No, show them that respect so that they will accept you and bring you in and carry you along.
Thank you so much, Ma. Now I'll give opportunity for 2 women to just ask questions.
Okay.
2 women.
Okay.
Before I give the men. But if I see anyone, I'll give opportunity. So if you want to ask Honorable any question, just raise your hands. I'll give you opportunity to ask your questions. The chat is already buzzing. Yes, Juliet, I'm going to give you opportunity.
Yes.
Okay, Juliet, unmute yourself and speak. Okay. Melody, are you ready?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Ma, and thank you for that wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
Well, as a woman, this thing that always kept me back when it comes to politics.
Yeah.
Because I remember the first time I told one of my aunts that I want to go to university, and I equally, in the nearby future, I want to go into politics. Yeah. What she told me is,
yeah, exactly.
So
exactly.
We have this our society has this perception that women in politics are prostitutes.
So or wayward.
Yes. So how do you battle that?
Yes, that one too is a very, very sensitive area that women must look into before even going into politics. Like if you listen to me in my earlier presentation, I told you a scene I talked about when the people said I have to present my husband, and I did that. And as a woman, wherever you find yourself, not only in politics, humble yourself and respect yourself, respect your self-respect before other people will respect you. And the way you present yourself to people, that's how they will take you. The unfortunate thing, the challenges we are having as women in politics, that one is a very, very big challenge that it will take a long time for that thing to be wiped away from the mindset of our people. Once somebody sees you as a politician, the first thing he will think about you is that you are a wayward person, you are not responsible. But it's left for you as a human person to exhibit who you are. Respect yourself. There are times that, you see, for me, there are times that they call for meeting. Like 3 days ago, I had a meeting. We started our meeting around 9. And we didn't finish that meeting until around 1:30 a.m. And my husband dropped me at the meeting and he came back to pick me up. So as a woman, you have to discipline yourself. There are places that you're not supposed to be seen. There are things that you're not supposed to do. As a woman, whether married or not, wherever you find yourself working with people, do not throw yourself to any Dick and Harry. You have to have self-respect, respect your dignity, who you are, then people will respect you. It is not always good for women. You know, it's not all about the beauty, how you look. It is what you have upstairs that will make people to like you. Don't think because I'm beautiful, I will go there. This one will say he wants to go out with me. My sister, if you do that, you're not going to last long in the game. Before you know it, you'll be thrown out. Everybody will talk about you. This one will come as if he likes you. And he just wants to have a good time with you, and after that he will send his friend to come again. And you foolishly, you think that because you are beautiful, that's why people are coming after you. No, if you're in politics, know that that terrain is not a place where you go and show your beauty. If you are in that terrain, you behave, your mindset will be like the men. Don't even remember that you are a woman. You're a woman physically, but your brain, in your mind, you behave like the men. Because at every point in time, you will be called upon to come and attend a meeting, to come and do presentation, to come and solve issues. If you're not responsible, my sister, nobody will take you seriously. So as a woman, that self-respect is very, very important. Wherever you find yourself is very, very important. And most especially if you are a married woman, and you want to have an affair. As a politician, my sister, you are rubbishing yourself. You are finished. So self-respect, the fear of God, that opportunity for your husband to even allow you to join politics is enough for you to safeguard his respect for your children and for your family.
Oh, thank you, ma. The place is bubbly. I like that part. Be a woman, think like a man. What do you think men who are in power think about? They think about dominating, they think about taking every opportunity. That's a woman should think. There are some questions. I know I don't want to keep you so much, but we have the whole time. If you're
no problem.
There are some questions. Let me give Melody opportunity to speak. Okay. Melody, ask your question. You can unmute yourself. Then there are some questions on the chat box, and we also read them out. Then you answer. Melody, over to you.
Good afternoon, mommy.
Yeah, good afternoon, Dad.
Slow afternoon.
Wow, I love everything about you. I love everything you say.
Your voice is low. Please speak louder.
Hello.
Thank you. Yes, please speak louder.
You have boosted my morale. We are ready to face that in politics because sometimes I feel down. I look at some challenges. I feel, wow, can I be able to face this? But with what I've had from today, mommy, we are ever ready to face that. Thank you so much. I've learned a lot.
Thank you. The sky is the limit. The sky is the limit, inshallah.
Okay, Honorable Numishi Blessing is asking on the chat. He said, please, how then did you manage the household and office? Looking at the fact that you weren't ready, just a housewife. So how did you manage household and office? She also said about the finances. How did you deal with that?
Yeah, okay. How I was able to manage, and I'm still managing the family, is that I try to make out time. Once I leave the office and I come home, I know that office is left behind, and I take out time to take care of my family. Most especially if I'm home, I prepare meals by myself for the family, and I take out time to play with the children, take them out, visitation like that. And it might interest you to know, in 2017, I gave birth to my last baby in 2017. And when I was planning to go for maternity leave, I asked the clerk of the house to write. I was requesting how many months should I apply for my maternity leave. But you know what? unfortunately, I was the only person that has given birth as a political office holder, as a honorable. So the clerk was confused. He said, even in the National Assembly, nobody has ever gone for maternity leave. So they don't know how many months to give me. So they have to use the civil service. Yes, so they have to use the civil service rules to give me 6 months to go on maternity leave. So I still have time for my family, no matter what. You have to balance the two. You cannot allow one to suffer. I've built this home for over almost 20 years now, and I cannot afford to allow it to just go down the drain. I have to work hard. If in as much as I'm around, I make sure I provide all the kid needs and my time. They have all of my time. Sometimes I even do help them to do their assignment when I'm home. So we do cleaning together on Saturdays. We sweep, we clean, we mop together with me. So they don't feel my absence. And when my husband is around, I make sure I cook his meal myself. So I try as much as possible to give him that respect, for him to know that he's the head of the family. Despite I'm honorable, if I'm in the house, I'm not the honorable, I'm Mrs. Suleiman. So I give him that respect, that honor. I serve him food myself. I clear the dining myself, for him to know that, yes, I'm still who he married some years back. You know, some women, we make a lot of mistakes. Once we have the opportunity of holding any office, you tend to, feel like, I've arrived, you want to change your status. That is not good for us. Maintain your status, maintain your relationship with your husband, no matter what. If, for example, now, I have all it takes. I can decide to say I want to buy ticket to travel, but I have to ask his consent. If he says no, is no. Even though I have the money and I'm going to pay for my trip, if he says no, I have to stay to respect him. And that is what will help you to make you go forward. But by the time you say you want to look down on your husband because you have now arrived, you have made it, then you're causing a very big problem for yourself. And the second question is the finance. Like I told you, when I came on board, I didn't have the money. I didn't have the finance, but no do, you must have something. I have to sell my car, as at that time. I have to look for support from my family and friends, because if there is no money in this game, you are going nowhere. It's an investment. You have to look for money to work it out. But money is not the ultimate. You have to have a goodwill. And if the people sees an asset in you, I tell you, some of them will not even want to collect your money. There are times where politicians will come with a lot of money and they will take the money, and at the end of the day, they will not even vote for you. So money is not the ultimate, but money is very important, because you have to use money to do logistics. If you're going out for campaign, like for me as a woman, if I'm going out for campaign, I have to prepare food in the morning. They will come to my house, take breakfast, we'll cook again and put in the car. Cold chilled water, Coke, Fanta, and everything, cold pure water, bottled water in the car. Because as we are going, wherever we feel we are tired, we'll have a rest and eat. So that is logistics, and you cannot do that without finance. So money too is important, but is not the ultimate. What is very, very important is aligning your people with aligning yourself with the people, bringing yourself down to their level. If I'm going to my constituency now, I don't dress the way I'm dressed to. I'll go and look for one very cheap wrapper and wear with slippers. I'll go to them and they will bring water from the stream or from the borehole directly from their bowl and give me, and I will take it in their presence. So that's to show them that we are together. As a leader, that is a sacrifice that you have to do. You don't go and sit down and cross your leg and hold your phone and just doing like this with them. That is not acceptable. They will only welcome you, take what you have, and they will tell you bye-bye. And before you know it, you're already left on the halfway. So money is important, though, but it's not the ultimate. The goodwill, like I said, now, if you know you have the intention of contesting for any position, start aligning yourself with the people. Show your presence. If you have any relatives at home, go close to them so that they will show you places where they are having naming ceremony. They don't know you. Just say, I learned that you people have ceremony. I just came to greet you. You buy one small chigamvi or small wrapper. Madam, take for the baby. Or you just buy Pampers, take. If you see any gathering or church or any mosques, just take something to them. Like the party people, if they are having any meeting, send a crate of mineral. Send 2 bags of pure water. This is for your meeting. They will start asking, who is that woman? That woman is very nice. These are the kind of people we need. Let her come now. We'll register her. Does she have? They will be the ones to be calling you, not you coming and they are pushing you away. So those are the things that we have to put into consideration.
Wow, amazing, amazing, and amazing. Okay. There are many on the chat.
Yeah.
A lot. The chat is just buzzing with different actions. All the people in the civic engagement program are already loving Ajia Binta, and they are taking you as a model.
Thank you.
How are you modeling, or are you mentoring younger women? We realize as organization, Lead Thoughts, that when we look at women who are doing well politically, and also in government, they are mostly elderly women. So
yes.
From those series of gender summits that we organized, we something like this. In fact, that made us start a program called the Young Women Mentorship Program, where we're mentoring 120 young ladies in politics. Also not part of Nigeria. Some of them are here, like the Melody who spoke, one of the mentees that we are having in the politics. Here. So how are you mentoring younger politics, man?
Well, in my place, like I told you, participation of women is not very, very deep. We're trying to bring them on board because of the culture, the religion. Like the first caller, the question she put on was, if you say you want to join politics, they will say you are a prostitute. So that thing is still affecting people from my area. There are opportunities that if I want to put them through. But up till now, they have not really made up their mind to come out to really say they want to be in politics. What we started doing was with the first lady in my state, Her Excellency Dr. Amina Sani Bello, was to, try to bring women into the executive position from the party, because they just did the Congress. But I tell you, we're planning to have at least five women from each ward, so that first we'll start with the party. By the time we have women in the party executive level, then those women will be able to help us out to get more people to join politics, either elective position or appointive position. But in some other areas, we achieved that. But in my own place, we couldn't achieve it because even the women themselves, the young ladies were not ready. We only had the elderly people to be the woman leader, assistant woman leader, and stuff like that. And up to this moment, in 2019, after our election, I also wanted to sponsor another lady for councillorship. But I tell you, it was a serious battle. The men didn't allow it at all. But I told them not to relent. We are still working on it. Any woman that is ready, that feels she wants to join any political, either she wants to join our party, elective position, that if she calls on my attention, I'm ready, I'm there to support her. But in my place, the women are not really coming out.
Okay. Honorable, the way you spoke, you inspired a lot of people when you talk about your husband, and now he has been so supportive. So how did you get to this point? Because we have a lot of younger women who are at the age of getting married, and we understand it was a bit easier for you because you've got a family support. So what is your counsel to younger women, especially who are looking forward to a venture into?
Well, what they need is, if if they have joined politics before getting married, they have the support of their family, because you must have the support of your family members. That is very, very important. You have to have the support of your parents. You go to them first, seek for their blessing, because what are we looking for? We are looking for prosperity. And if you don't have the blessing, is seek their consent. Members of your family, seek their consent and their support until when that is given to you, before you can now go in for it. And if you are already married, you have to see, like for me, let me use myself as an example. For me, when we did the deliberation from the family and they nominated me, it took us 3 weeks before my husband could give his consent. Yes, it took him 3 weeks because he couldn't really comprehend allowing his wife to be a politician. You know why? Because of the issue of prostitute, wayward, she will now overpower you. When she becomes a honorable member, you cannot control her again. So that is what was, ringing on his mind, thinking that if I allow this woman to have her freedom now, I will not be able to control her. I will not be able to talk to her again. I might not see her again and stuff like that. So we have to sit down with him every night. He will wake me up. Do you know what you are getting yourself into? Do you know what is politics? At the time you enter politics, that's when you hear the story of your life, your parents, your grandmother, and everybody. Are you ready for that? I will tell him, whatever you say. If you say I should join, I will join. If you say I shouldn't, I will stop. What is your take? You say, okay, tomorrow we'll continue. He was just doing that to scare me and to also, I don't know, but maybe to prepare my mind so that I will know what lies ahead of me. And that is what I will advise the young people here. If you're already married and you want to go into politics, please sit down with your husband. Seek his consent. You know when we want something, you know how you talk to your husband when you want something. So don't come and tell him that, see, it's our time now. Women are already getting there. So I already bought my form. Whether you like it or not, I'm going there. That's not how you talk to him. You talk to him in that bedroom voice. Beg him. Even that day, if he doesn't allow you, you wait for another day. When you see that his face is calm, you talk to him until he gives you the green card. Yes.
That's great. Ryan is really, really needing your help.
Okay.
Ryan, that she needs to convince her husband on this same matter. Ryan is one of our mentee in Gombe State.
Gombe.
Yes, she's in Gombe State.
Okay.
Ryan, do you want to say anything? So I give you opportunity. Just raise your hand. Let me give you opportunity if you want to speak. I just saw your chat. Okay, Ryan, so you can unmute yourself if you want to.
Hello, ma'am.
Hello.
Hello, good afternoon, ma'am.
Afternoon.
How is work over there?
Fine, thank you.
Praise God. I'm facing exactly your problem. I tried to convince him, but he's not giving in because he has been saying every woman in politics is a prostitute, this and that, yes. and he is an educated person. I don't know what his problem is. I've been trying to convince him for a very long time now. So earlier it was I think it was 2 weeks ago. I came across one Atiku door to door. If you have ever heard of it, I don't know if you. Yes, and I talked with the chairman here in Gombe, and he said they need more women in their parties, and I tried to talk to him, try to see if they can give me any vacancy. He said yes, they can because they need more women, and I asked my husband, he's not giving in. I've given up, but I don't know if I can get to your number so that I can talk to him, maybe try to convince. I don't know. But I'm fed up. I've given up already.
No, don't give up. You see, don't give up. You know what you do? your parents, are they in Gombe?
Yes, ma'am, they are in Gombe.
Okay. Is your father aware of your interest in politics?
Yes.
Is he in support of it?
You don't know everything you will say. If my husband doesn't have a problem, it's fine with him too.
No, if he's in support of it, he will be the one to talk to your husband. Then I too can now talk to him.
Okay, I think that's what I have to do now. I'll go and meet my father.
Because what happened, yes, because what happened in my case, it was my father that, went on my behalf first. After we did the deliberation in the family and they nominated me. So the issue was now her. Will her husband allow her? So my father said, okay, give that to me. I will talk to him. So my father called my husband and said, please, Alhaji, I want to see you. I have one very important matter that I want us to discuss. And my husband went and he met my father. And my father said, please, I want to beg you that something good has come to my community and they gave it to me, but me, I cannot do it. So I brought it before my children and they nominated your wife. So I want you to please help me release her, because even if she doesn't win, let it not be that, in my place we do zoning. So it was zoned to my area. So now if we don't have anybody to contest, another time might come and they will say, even if they take that into their people, they don't have anybody. So please, we want you to release her so that she can go and contest, even if she doesn't win. We want your support. This help you are giving is not for me, it's for the community. And that was how he was able to convince my husband. So, hello?
Yes, we're with you.
Okay. So that was how he was able to convince my husband. And, he now came back home and started drilling 3 weeks. It wasn't easy though, but I didn't give up. So don't give up. What I will tell you now is talk to your dad. Tell him that there's an opportunity in the party and they want women presentation and they are ready to give you a position. That your problem now is your husband and you have spoken with him and he's not ready. That you want daddy to please talk to him and you promise him that you are going to be a very, very humble person. You respect his dignity, because they respect you. If you respect yourself, that's the respect they will accord to your husband. The way you behave, that's the way they will look at your husband. And your husband is your ultimate. You have no any other person greater. Even Mr. President is not as important in your life as your husband, even before man and in the eyes of God. So you promise that you protect his interest and safeguard his respect. That is what the assurance that the men need. It's not as if the men don't want us. Some of them, it's not as if they don't want us to join politics, but so many women have disappointed us. Honestly speaking, I must be sincere with you. They have disappointed us in the sense that once they get into those positions, they tend to forget where they came from. So you have to promise your husband and tell your father that, and you must remember that your father is your shorty. That the way you respect your father, that's how you accord respect to your husband. So your father is now speaking on your behalf. If eventually he allows you, don't disappoint him. Don't disappoint him in the sense that you start misbehaving, because you will definitely see money when you get to the office. And if you're not prayerful and you humble yourself, your head might turn gaga. And that's when you start having problems. If you say, see, they just call us in Kaduna now. Where are you? I'm already packing my things, without waiting for him to come, without telling him. That's exactly what some women are doing. And that's why we are having problems. You understand? We just call him, hello, dear, where are you? I just got a message now that we have meeting in Lagos. So if you are not at home, I'm already packing my things.
Wow.
You don't do that. You call him, where are you, please? I want to see you. I'm in the house. See you, this, that. When do you plan to travel? The meeting is today. So you want to go today? So I wanted to go today, but how do I leave you now with these children? Except, what do you think? He will be the one to suggest for you.
Yes.
That's when you have it easy going. Some people even be saying, it's like this woman has charmed her husband. My dear, it's not charm, it's just understanding. Yeah. I swear to God, that's the truth I will tell you, because this is reality. So yes, take that, and you can take my number from Shane, take my number from him, and you do that first. Start from your dad, then wherever you have any other issue, just contact me, so that myself and my husband, we can even come to Gombe. Okay, that I promise you. Yes. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. I'm excited to hear this. I'm excited. I'm so excited. Let me hear from Sadia. Sadia Ahmed Bello, unmute yourself quickly. Sadia, unmute yourself if you still want to speak. Okay, so Sadia is struggling to unmute herself. Norbert, I'm seeing Norbert's hand. I prefer to allow women to speak today. So every man, please put your question on the chat box. Today is Ladies' Day.
It's Women's Day today.
Okay, it's Women's Day. So Sadia, you can unmute yourself if you're still there. Just touch your screen and unmute yourself. Okay, so while Sadia is waiting, he's trying to get there. Norbert, you're a male. Okay, okay. So, Ma, what is next for you in 2023? What should you be anticipating?
So, I'm still praying for God's guidance. You know, as a House of Assembly or House of Representative member, we do not have limits to how many times we can contest. But in my place, there's a system that we are used to, the zoning system, and I'm serving my second term now. But I don't know if the bill that is before the National Assembly is being addressed. Maybe the special seat might favor me. But for now, I don't know yet. I'm still doing consultation and praying to God to show me the direction.
Okay, thank you, Ma. So, Honorable, since the young men are insisting, I will allow them to put their questions all together. Sadia, are you still there? Okay, so Norbert, ask your question, and Mariam starts. Then Norbert, you will follow. Mariam, unmute yourself and speak. We'll take all the questions together. Okay, Mariam, over to you.
Welcome, welcome. I'm very, very happy and grateful to have you here in the program. So you are welcome. That's what.
Thank you.
And my question is, do you think there's ever a possibility that we women, we can have the chance to vote, as in to vote for governorship election or presidential seat election here in Nigeria due to the country? Are you thinking, is that possible for us
to emerge as to have a female president?
Okay, do you think it will be possible for?
That is what we are working on.
Election here in Nigeria.
Yes, if I can get your question right, at the National Assembly, there's a bill before the National Assembly that is seeking for a special seat for women, and also 35 affirmative action for women. What that implies is that in every position, there must be a woman. And what we are asking for, if let's assume in the presidential now, the president is a man, we want the vice president to be a woman. Or if you come down to the state, if the governor is a man, we want the deputy governor to be a woman, vice versa. Even at the chairmanship level, we want to have more women, chairmen, just like the Kogi state. What the Kogi state governor did was awesome. He gave, I think, about 22 local governments, all of the 22 local government vice chairmen are women. So those are the negotiation we want to put on the table now. For every political office holder, there must be a woman as a deputy or heading that place.
Okay, thank you,
It's possible if that bill is able to scale through.
That's right. Okay, thank you. So, Norbert, ask your question.
All right.
Deborah, you ask your question. Then we take those two questions as the last question.
All right. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Afternoon.
My question is, some time ago, I heard or I got introduced to this idea of feminism and stuff, and then how it was going to benefit leadership. And my question still remains, is it possible that feminism is going to have a stand in actually pushing women's, the ideology of women in politics or women in leadership position? And then, if so, don't women think that going by that feminism idea, it would actually stand as something quite opposing to the men? Because, okay, looking at the name feminism, it's more one-sided than it is both-sided. So my question is it possible that we disassociate feminism from women leadership, or is this something that has to stand?
No, we cannot distinguish. You cannot separate it. As a man, you are already a man. A woman is a woman. But what we are asking here is give us the play level, free play level field to be able to give in our own quota. You cannot take that away, except for some few people that have a kind of an opposing mindset towards that. You understand?
Okay, thank you. Jamil is saying, for me, this is the type of feminism that women should learn from the Honorable. Okay, Deborah, you unmute yourself and let's hear from you quickly. Deborah Suleiman.
Yeah, good afternoon all. Wow, thank you very much, Ma. You've been an inspiration. My question goes this way.
Okay.
Women does not support. There are many women that don't support other women in power or in leadership. How are you able to overcome it? And I have known somebody that says it's over her dead body to vote for another lady, because when women are in power, they tend to have pride, and when you go to their office, they tend to speak to you anyhow because they think they are already higher than you. So how are you able to overcome that?
Well, that is another point that is really bringing us down, because actually, not that women don't like themselves. Even in the men's cycle, they have issues like that, but you don't see it play out obviously like the women. And in my submission, that's when you need to be humble. You need to humble yourself. As a woman, once you get that opportunity, try to carry everybody along, bring yourself down. We have that issue, and as a leader, you have to take responsibility. There are times where some people want to annoy you as a woman when you go to a woman's office, or let me give an example with my state. In my state, we have female commissioners, and there are times that you see something very little that is not something to talk about. They want to make a case out of it. But what I try to do as much as possible, I never allow myself to have issue with anybody, because I always don't want that reference being made that we told you that women, they don't even like themselves. See how they are behaving. So I try to, control myself, even if something annoys me that has to do with my fellow woman. I try to control myself so that I don't give that room for people to feel that we told you that even women don't like themselves. So when they are in a place, they will continue to show that, yes, they don't like themselves. That is not a reason for us not to have interest in politics. There are people like that. In wherever you go, there are good people and bad people. wherever you find yourself in, whether in the banking sector, in the medical field, public servants, there are good people and bad people. The same thing with politics. Politics is just like any other business or venture that you can go into, you understand? So when you find yourself there, don't feel discouraged because they say women don't help themselves, so I will not vote for a woman who is contesting for any. No, that's a wrong impression. And if a woman is being saddled with that leadership responsibility, wallahi, she does double than what men do. When I came on board in 2015 in my constituency, I dug 50 boreholes, 50 hand pump boreholes, including motorized. I built schools, 6 schools from fresh to finish. I empowered 150 women and youths. And I paid scholarship, I paid money for their JAM and WAEC, and I do medical support a lot. And that testimony is there. That was with the glory of God and the support of God Almighty. That was what even gave me the second ticket to come back. Because some people at the top felt that they were intimidated with my antecedent and the way I was progressing. And they felt that if they allow me to go higher, that I might not be answerable to them. So they didn't want me to come back. But that goodwill, the things I did for the people, that was what they were using to speak good about me. You understand? So I did that because when I was campaigning, every community I go to, the women there will welcome me and they will take me to their stream where they fetch water. And they told me that they did that because they know I'm a woman, that I will feel their pain. You understand? That I will feel their pain. So they took me there so that I can go and see for myself. And when I saw that, that gave me that zeal to be able to do that borehole for them. A man could go there and he might feel that water is not the problem. Is JC for football that he will buy and share. And that is not the problem of women. He might feel that he wants to buy machine and share for the young people. But you would ride machine and come back home, you need water to take your bath, you need water to drink. So my concentration was on the borehole because women were complaining there was no portable drinking water for them. So please, we support women. Not all women are bad. Not all, all of us cannot be bad people. There are bad and good people. So wherever you find a woman, give her that benefit of doubt. Give her the benefit of that. It is her character that will now show you that, yes, either she's a good person or not. Don't, how do they say it? Don't conclude on the book without reading it. You just the cover. Read it first and then you can give your submission. So please try to support. We should support ourselves and we should try to bring ourselves together. No matter, even if there is problem, try not to show it to the men to know that there is problem, because the men too, they used to have their problem. But once they go to meeting in the night and they just share that glass of wine, it's over. So we should also learn from that too and be our sister's keeper, work together so that we can bring more women on board. Women need this position. Women are entrepreneurs. Women are multitasking. We do so many things. You work in the office, you come back home, you still have to do something in the house. So please don't be discouraged. Keep the spirit and keep pushing. Know what you want and go for it.
Wow, thank you so much, ma. Honorable, from 15 minutes, you have spent more than 1 hour already.
Right, and I have another meeting to attend now.
Yes, we are so excited. Thank you so much for.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure.
A lot of people have been sending personal chats to me, saying that they would like mentorship from you.
Okay.
What I will do is I'm going to be sharing your social media handles with them, and for Ryan, sharing your number with her, and any other person that you think do that, I will let you know. But many people here, they say they want you to mentor them. They are sending personal chats to me.
Okay. All right, no problem. No problem. Thank you so much, Shehu. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
We are looking forward to seeing people like you dominate our political space. we're excited that you're from Niger State and you're doing what you're doing. It's amazing. Thank you for what you do. And thank you for coming down here. And we hope to see you again very soon, even on a larger platform.
Thank you so much. It's unfortunate that I've passed the not too young to run now. I've joined the old people. Even though I would have been with you people.
Yeah, you will be a mentor for the not too young to run movement.
Yes, okay, exactly. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome,
Thank
man.
you.
Thank you so much.
I really appreciate. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you know that it's been a wonderful day today, right? And I can see the excitement on the chat box. Maybe, Honorable, before you leave, you can just check the chat box and see the amazing things that young people have written and thought of sharing with you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, today we have come to the end of our session. And Honorable's session, I think, okay, there are still two more, right? Okay, yes, there's still two more topics to go for you to complete the public leadership and promoting inclusive governance model. You just met with an Binta moment today, right? Next week, we're going to be meeting with amazing women, like I also told you, meeting with Mrs. Anantu Yago, Anantu Yago as well. You'll also be meeting with Mrs. Tia Kubo, and then you'll be meeting with Mrs. Messi Sosaya. These three women are going to amaze you again. And I'm so proud to tell you this because it tells us that we have more women who are doing amazing things everywhere, right? So I want you to look forward to that and do your assignments, right? If you have